Coming in at number 10, Galactus. The being formerly known as Galen of the planet Ta lived before the modern cosmos in the previous cosmos. Galen gestated with the sentience of the universe for billions of years, transforming into the devourer of worlds, finding sustenance by ingesting entire planets, preferably those with living sentient beings that have much more energy for him to harness. Now when Galactus destroys and consumes a planet, he is sort of bringing balance to the universe, kind of like how life is given and taken away every day on Earth, which makes him an essential part of the universe. He's known for the destruction of the Skrull Empire and has attempted to devour the Earth so many freaking times. And I guess other planets for that matter too, or whatever. Galactus is also famous for his heralds such as Silver Surfer and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and so many others. And while they are all powerful beings themselves, usually even before they gain the herald power boost, they don't hold a candle to Galactus himself. His only caveat is that Galactus's power depends on his planet's consumption. So a weakened Galactus has been taken out before, but if he eats like 4 or more planets or something, he's been able to defeat multiple mad celestials all by himself. He's powered by food, and I think pretty much all of us can understand that. Number 9 is Kang the Conqueror. Kang is a little bit of an interesting pick for this list, as he totally can be stopped and has been multiple times. Thanks to the advanced time period he comes from though, Nathaniel Richards has an increased lifespan, making him look 40 when he's actually 7 years old. That's fine, that doesn't make him unstoppable. What makes him unstoppable is a couple of things. For starters, as most people know, Kang has a huge relationship with time. A version of this guy exists at almost all moments of the time stream, and not just one version of him, as there have been Kangs from different universes that have shown up as well. So not only can Nathaniel Richards show up at any point in the time stream in any of his numerous identities that all have their own long history, but his alternate universe versions are almost always set to make an appearance in his place. And then, on top of that, until recently, Nathaniel had the ability to transfer his consciousness to another body when he passed away. Nathaniel, Ramatut, Iron Lad, Kid Immortus, Scarlet Centurion, Immortus himself, Mr. Griffin, he who remains, whatever you want to call him, Kang the Conqueror is pretty much unstoppable. Coming in at number 8, ABRAXAS. ABRAXAS is the polar opposite of the cosmic entity Eternity. So, being the opposite of Eternity, his whole reason for existing is to destroy all of the multiverse, which, I'll be honest, there are a few different characters in Marvel who exist for that reason, and funnily enough, a bunch of them are on this list. ABRAXAS is tied to Galactus too, because when Galactus would consume a planet, it would keep ABRAXAS in check. So, when Galactus is taken off the board in Galactus the Devourer, ABRAXAS is released and begins his path of ultimate destruction. As a cosmic entity, ABRAXAS' powers are essentially limitless, and his whole existence is kind of important to the universe, which means he can't really be taken out like a normal villain. So, how the heck do the heroes come out on top against this guy? Well, in Fantastic Four number 48 to 50, we learned of an incredibly powerful weapon called the Ultimate Nullifier. It was used back then to threaten Galactus and stop him from destroying our Earth. Now the heroes, specifically Reed Richards, ended up using the Ultimate Nullifier to essentially rewrite reality, destroying reality and remaking it so that ABRAXAS just never existed. That's the route we had to go to here. Kinda makes you wonder why Marvel would even write such a powerful villain in the first place, but if you're enjoying this list so far, well, we've got a ton more like it on our channel that you should definitely subscribe to. Or you could just give a thumbs up to this video, that's also helpful. Thanks. Number 7, Mephisto. Within the Marvel Universe, Mephisto is, for all intents and purposes, the devil. He isn't actually. Technically, he is a demonic hell lord who rules over his own hell-like dimension and enjoys stealing people's souls by tricking them, and he does that by pretending he is the actual devil, playing on people's fears, so basically, he's the devil. While Mephisto is within his dimension, which he calls hell, he is immortal, omniscient, and impossible to destroy. It's only when he ventures into other realms that he can be defeated, but doing so just kind of returns him back to his own dimension. He has been a major player in the Marvel Universe since his creation and has been either a key or supporting player for many major events. He was the Snake in the old Adam and Eve story. He was directly responsible for the creation of Ghost Rider. He's infamously erased the history of Peter Parker and Mary Jane's marriage in order to save Aunt May's life. I mean, he even popped up a hotel out of the ground in Las Vegas that manipulated the citizens and let him take their souls. He has been defeated and outmaneuvered multiple times, but he has never permanently been stopped. Number 6. The Phoenix Force. Now it's important to say the Phoenix Force is not a villain, technically. It is a cosmic entity representing all life in the Omniverse. The Phoenix Force will exist as long as there is, was, or will be life. If the Phoenix Force were to be destroyed, if that were even possible, all life would follow after it, as well as the ability for life to have begun in the first place. The Phoenix Force is just a force of nature, but it has been used as a darker force of power in the past. For example, when it inhabited Jean Grey during the Dark Phoenix Saga. It was at this time the entity was a villain, using Jean's insane levels of psychic power, which it then amplified to godlike levels. With this entity inhabiting her body, Jean and the Phoenix destroyed an entire solar system and attacked her fellow X-Men. Jean had to actually bring her own end just to stop what was happening, and when the Phoenix regained its memories of all the evil it had done, it brought Jean back to life to help make things a little better. And that's not the only time. There was the whole X-Men vs Avengers thing, and there was that time that Thane, Thanos' son, had the Phoenix Force. Almost every time the power of the Phoenix Force comes up, it usually corrupts its bearer and makes like a big stink. Like a huge stink. Big old fart. Number 5. Dormammu. Most fans of Doctor Strange know Dormammu. This being composed of pure magic energy rules the dark dimension and spends most of his time taking over other realities as he finds them. He is essentially immortal and capable of wielding godly power over magic, the dead, souls, and pretty much anything, really. When he is in our reality, he can be thwarted and returned to his own, usually by the Sorcerer Supreme, but within the dark dimension, he reigns supreme and cannot be taken down, like, at all. Using his vast magical abilities and the influence of his power, he is constantly trying to invade our reality, and even when he is banished back or he is stopped, he always comes back eventually, and he has been doing this for millennia. Number 4. The Beyonder. The Beyonder is a singular entity with no duplicate versions of himself in other universes, similar to the Phoenix Force. And also a lot like the Phoenix Force, Beyonder is basically like a baby in that he is a younger member of a race called the Beyonders that are a near omnipotent alien race from a dimension outside of the multiverse. He is himself basically a whole universe. It's really hard to explain, but as he observes Earth and the Marvel Universe and the various races, he gets a little curious, and the Beyonder decides to study and analyze life and humanity, good and evil and conflict, and to that purpose he pits Earth's mightiest heroes and villains against each other in the Secret Wars. Now, he did this by destroying an entire system of planets and creating Battleworld from the remains and from parts of Earth, so that's one level of power right there. Beyonder's powers surpass that of Eternity and the Living Tribunal, but that has been retconned recently. And he is capable of manipulating reality to his will, being able to pretty much do whatever he wants and then grant himself any power he wants. It was actually a huge treat though last year in the Defenders Beyond story when we learned that the Beyonder and his race were actually still in existence, and he was now an adult existing with the rest of the adult Beyonders outside of the multiverse and being all levels of wildly insanely powerful. There's a lot I skimmed over here to make it less confusing, but you should just go read all the Secret Wars if you want to see how crazy these beings actually are. Number 3. CHTHON. CHTHON, also known as the Destroyer, is an incredibly powerful extra-dimensional being who was worshipped as a god and as a demon by the primitive humans of Earth until he was banished back to the Crimson Cosmos, which is where he comes from. Now, as the Destroyer, CHTHON's main goal is to just cause destruction and raise destructive power. Simple as that. To do this though, from the Crimson Cosmos, and also to win a wager with 8 other godlike deities like himself, he created the Crimson Gem of CHTHON, which allows him to select a person to be his avatar, enhancing them to become the indestructible and immortal Juggernaut, which kinda gives us 2 different versions of Unstoppable all wrapped up into one package. You're welcome. Merry Christmas. That's for you. As the Juggernaut is essentially a physically unstoppable force of kinetic energy, unless you're the Hulk, I guess, then you can stop him. I don't know why. Anyways, CHTHON is such a powerful and unstoppable godlike entity that you will even hear magic users invoking his name to cast some of their strongest spells. For example, the Crimson Bands of CHTHON. Number 2. The Chaos King. While he is relatively obscure, he is nothing to scoff at. Amatsu Mikobashi, first appearing in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, was mistaken as the Japanese god of chaos and evil, but in actuality, he was an aspect of the cosmic being Oblivion. being. Now Mikabashi ruled and thrived over the Earth when it was nothing more than a formless void of primordial darkness, and as such, his goal now is to put an end to creation and bring about a new age of chaos and void and darkness. He is a primordial being who was imprisoned in Yomi, which is the Shinto underworld, which is where he remained for centuries, accruing an army of Oni, which is Shinma demons, and other monsters. Now during the events of Ares, god of war, Chaos King attacks Olympus after he defeated and controlled the Japanese pantheon of gods, and after the fall of Asgard during Ragnarok. This is what kind of kickstarts his mission in Chaos War, where he slays the Egyptian gods, Celtic gods, Shi'ar gods, gods of Zen law, he takes out Nightmare in the dream dimension, destroys Mephisto, and casts Mistress Death out of hell, making her literally run away. And he releases the souls of the damned. He did all that. He has the power to defeat eternity and is practically unfazed by attacks from the likes of Zeus. God Hercules, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Thor together could not defeat Chaos King. To win, Hercules had to literally punch him into a portal to an endless void of nothingness, and this was after he destroyed 98.76% of the entire universe. That's a lot. Number 1. CHTHON. CHTHON is one of the most powerful demons to ever exist. Even though he predates anything like this, of all the devil-like demons out there, including Mephisto, CHTHON is the closest thing to the actual devil. He and his Ngari actually ruled the earth before the angel Lucifer attacked them, and that was before Lucifer ever rebelled against heaven and became the actual devil. CHTHON himself is responsible for all the witches, werewolves, vampires, and other dark creatures, as well as being the master of the most powerful form of magic, chaos magic, which is the same stuff used by the Scarlet Witch. The Scarlet Witch has altered all of reality with just a fraction of that magic, so yeah, it's a lot. His opposite, Oshter, is one of the 3 beings that make up the Vishanti, and they stand in direct opposition to CHTHON specifically, creating the Book of Vishanti in response to CHTHON's Darkhold. Other demons and dark sorcerers, including Dormammu and Mephisto, call on CHTHON's name to cast some of their strongest spells, and the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, was almost corrupted and permanently taken out by CHTHON's mere presence alone. He is extremely hard to bring down, and even if you manage to do so, it's only a matter of time until he comes back.
Number 10. Dr. Doom. Some of you are already typing your comments claiming that Victor Von Doom is not a villain and is instead an anti-hero. I would disagree, saying that he's at best an anti-villain, but honestly, if I didn't include him, I'd be getting just as many comments complaining about his exclusion, so let's put him at the bottom and agree that Dr. Doom started out as a villain and has become more nuanced and difficult to peg down in the years since. Victor Von Doom was the child of Romani people living in Latveria. His mother was a sorceress, and after her and his father's passing, Victor began to study her books, teaching himself the dark arts. He also developed a keen scientific mind, which made him a legendary scientist and inventor at a very young age, and led to him being tracked down by the US military and offered further education in the States. It was here that he met Reed Richards, with whom he developed a lifelong rivalry. While still in school, he developed his infamous Doom bots and also built a functional time machine. He was disfigured in an accident that resulted in his expulsion, and he went on to become the leader of some monks who helped him build his iconic armor. He became the main antagonist of the Fantastic Four and the dictator of the country of Latveria, causing lots of problems for the heroes of the Marvel Universe. His status as one of the most brilliant minds on Earth, as well as him being one of the Earth's most powerful sorcerers, combined with his diplomatic immunity, makes him a force to be reckoned with for both the heroes and the villains of the Marvel Universe.
And at number 9 is Sabretooth. Sabretooth is like the darker, bigger, and stronger brother of Wolverine. He isn't actually Wolverine's brother, but the fights between Wolverine and Sabretooth were the absolute most bloody, knockdown, drag-out, legendary fights that go to such drastic extremes, and that's because neither of these guys can really be stopped, since they both possess an absolutely massive, powerful healing factor. They share a lot of qualities, honestly. Sabretooth has adamantium-laced bones and claws, superhuman senses, superhuman attributes, and even psionic resistances as well. The thing about Sabretooth is that he is just pure animalistic fury, a mindless killing machine, but one who has the training to make him just that much more of a force to be reckoned with. Even when he is stopped, he's almost never fully destroyed because of that damn healing factor that makes him next to impossible to bring down. Sure, he doesn't warp reality or cross-dimensional barriers, but even when he was thrown into the pit on Krakoa, where he was trapped alive but unable to move, he still proved a problem as he fixed figured out how to escape.
Magneto. When Mac Eisenhart was a young man in Germany, he was subjected to many atrocities at the hands of the Third Reich, who sent him to Auschwitz for no reason other than being Jewish. He eventually escaped and became known as Erich Lenscher. He discovered that he had the ability to control the powers of magnetism, and after the war, used them to track down former German soldiers. He developed the belief that mutants and humanity could not coexist and became Magneto, a mutant dedicated to mutant superiority and the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He fought the X-Men several times over the years, but they eventually came to an uneasy truce, working together to form a refuge for their kind on the island of Krakoa, which is good for everyone as Magneto is a very difficult villain to stop and has stood up to the entire Avengers team, once reversed the Earth's magnetic poles, and also created a global EMP which took out the world's technology, showing that he could plunge us back to the Dark Ages whenever he wants.
Number 7. Apocalypse. The name of the game for Apocalypse, or En Sabanur, is survival of the fittest. His powers manifested back in ancient Egypt with the powers of immortality and the ability to alter the molecular structure of his own body. Now, we unfortunately have to talk about time travel here. I'm sorry. While Apocalypse has history with Kang the Conqueror as Rama Tut, the more important time traveler that Apocalypse deals with is Nathan Summers, aka Cable. In the future world of Cable, Apocalypse had conquered the world, so in order to stop that, Nathan went back to ancient Egypt to defeat Apocalypse. And during that fight, the techno-organic arm of Cable bonded to Apocalypse, who used it to interact with a celestial spaceship and integrate all of its technology into himself, amplifying and enhancing his existing powers, allowing him to do pretty much anything. He can teleport, interface with any technology, grant himself almost any power like strength, flight, energy beams, telepathy, telekinesis, and all kinds of stuff. Obviously, it all depends on the story he's in. He's so incredibly OP that his powers wax and wane based on the story. Like in the X-Men animated TV show, he grew to like 1,000 feet tall and just used energy beams to completely vaporize the X-Men. And that could totally happen in the comics too at any point if it served the story. Usually he just sends out his horsemen to test the mutants though. The thing that makes him even more unstoppable is his ability to move his spiritual essence into new host bodies when his physical body is either worn out from his massive power or destroyed in a fight.
Number 6. Hela. Hela is the daughter of Loki, who was appointed by Odin to be the goddess of death. He would come to regret this choice, as Hela soon began several attempts to steal his and his son Thor's souls and to conquer Asgard for herself. In one of her most disturbing plots, she cursed Thor with immortal life, but a frail and decrepit body. She eventually reversed this and moved to Las Vegas, where she began to feed upon the souls of the unlucky. As the goddess of death, she can't really die, and is able to heal any injury with great speed, even being able to come back from disintegration. She has the power to kill immortal beings with a simple touch, making her a force to be reckoned with for Thor, let alone the normal human heroes he works with.
Number 5. The Fury. Many people may actually not know of the Fury, and there's a rather simple reason for that. The Fury came about in Marvel Superheroes UK, which is Marvel's attempt to branch out to British audiences and revamp Captain Britain. But it was also a way for Marvel to open up and explain the concept of the multiverse, and this all happened in the Crooked World story. This story deals with one of the most powerful reality warping mutants ever, named Mad Jim Jaspers on Earth 238. But he's not even the focus of this point. Mad Jim Jaspers became the leading political leader in England, rallying the people against superheroes, and he created what was essentially a robot called the Fury, for the sole purpose of taking down superheroes, and my lord, the Fury is good at it. In the matter of 2 years, the Fury decimated every single superpower being on Earth 238 except for Jim Jaspers. The Fury is similar to the Sentinels we see in the X-Men Days of Future Past movie, because this robot can analyze superhuman powers or any threat and modify its own defenses and capabilities to combat it. But it can also fire extremely potent energy blasts and even restore itself after being completely destroyed. The Fury ends up completely obliterating Captain Britain, causing him to be revived. And that was all a test for Captain Britain to face the much more powerful Mad Jim Jaspers from Earth 616. Now, the universe of Earth 238 gets destroyed, but the Fury adapts to even that and develops the ability to travel across dimensional barriers to continue its mission. The only thing going against this being is that he doesn't have a ton of appearances, so it's kind of hard to judge him against other beings.
Number 4. Thanos. Thanos was born on one of Saturn's moons, Titan, and had the deviant gene, which gave him thick purple skin as well as superior strength and heightened powers. He fell in love with a woman who turned out to be Death, and dedicated his life to impressing her by destroying as many living things as possible. Thanos has conquered countless worlds in his quest to impress Death, and is responsible for unleashing unspeakable horrors upon them. For instance, when he conquers a world, it is not uncommon for him to demand a tribute of the heads of everyone from the ages of 16 to 22. This insane demand is part of his plan to fulfill a request from Death to rid the universe of any of his offspring, and rather than put in the time to find out where and who his children are, he chooses to save time by implementing this method. As he is pretty much unstoppable for anyone but the most powerful superheroes, most planets are forced to go along with his insane demands. In his most iconic moment, he came up with a plan to acquire the Infinity Gems and wipe out half of all life in the universe in order to impress his love. Unlike many other evildoers who make these elaborate plans and then fail, Thanos actually pulled this off, getting all the gems and using the Infinity Gauntlet to enact his deadly romantic gesture.
Number 3, the Void. I think one of my favorite things that Marvel's done is create the Sentry. Essentially a Superman-like character, but like, in my opinion, way cooler. A large part of what makes him so much better is that while he is essentially a godlike superhero who inspired all the other heroes who exist, he also has a dark persona called the Void. The Void went on a rampage that took the lives of around 1 million people and almost destroyed Manhattan. And so, Sentry made the decision with other heroes like Reed Richards and Doctor Strange to cause the entire world to forget about his existence. Now, in New Avengers, which started in 2004/2005, the Sentry comes back to the world, and through a series of events, the Void also returns. Full rosters of the Avengers, X-Men, and the Fantastic Four all went to take on the Void, and they couldn't do a damn thing. Only the Sentry himself could really subdue the Void, and it, in classic supervillain fashion, vowed to come back. And it totally did. In the Siege event, Norman Osborn decided to attack Asgard, and he used the Sentry to do this. Problem is that the Sentry ended up unleashing the Void, and it totally obliterated Asgard completely, taking out Loki in the process. This did actually branch off into a what-if story where the Void was never stopped and destroyed every superhero on Earth, and then went off into the universe to basically do the same thing. The Void exists as long as the Sentry exists, and the Sentry keeps on coming back to life every time he somehow gets defeated. The Sentry is basically a god, and the Void is this god's devil. Number 2, Zom. Just because Zom looks like your uncle's hairy big toe does not mean that you should underestimate him. Zom is one of the most powerful and scary extra-dimensional entities in existence, being described as worse than a dozen Umars. Umar is the sister of Dormammu, for anyone who wanted to know. Now, speaking of Dormammu, it took all of his power plus the help of the cosmic being Eternity just to restrain Zom with the magical chain called the Links of Living Bondage and with an object called the Crown of Blindness. And with these tools, these massively powerful beings managed to trap Zom in a jar. Now, I know it sounds silly, I'm downplaying it. It was actually an amphora, and Zom was trapped in a quote world beyond worlds in a quote time beyond all time. That was just his origin story though. Eons into the future, in Strange Tales number 156 from 1967, Doctor Strange unleashed Zom in a fight against Umar, but that was a mistake because now Strange had no way of taking on Zom, like at all. He had to turn to the Living Tribunal, the personification of multiversal law, the representative for the one above all, and the highest authority in the multiverse, just to banish Zom. Zom wasn't really released again, but Strange did channel Zom's power in a fight against Worldbreaker Hulk when that event happened, and using that power he did indeed pummel the hell out of the Hulk until Strange started to lose control and pass out. Lastly, in Doctor Strange's final recent moments, he was taken down by the Hood, who held an assault on the Sanctum Sanctorum with like 50 other villains, and Strange managed to rise again, but channeling the power of Zom, which he used to take out everyone. Then then Strange left the mortal plane.
Number 1. The one below all. So, the one above all is the ruler of the multiverse and the creator of all life in it. Although he is the source of love and good, he also has an evil form known as the one below all, who is the personification of hatred and destruction. The ruler of the lowest point of reality, the below place, it is able to manifest itself on Earth through the mutagenic form of gamma radiation. This means that when Bruce Banner was caught in the gamma bomb, he was infused with this dark entity's power. The one below all wants to become the only remaining thing in the multiverse and to destroy everything else. As he is incapable of having his own personality without a host, it waited until Hulk's father, Brian Banner, died to merge with him and take on his personality. The leader eventually managed to absorb Brian's soul in hopes of learning more about the one below all, but was possessed by it instead. He is a terrifying foe who can never really be killed, and who, as a dark aspect of the one above all, is technically also the creator of everything he's trying to destroy. If you want more information on the one below all, check out our video attempting to explain the Immortal Hulk, where he is the puppet master pulling all the strings against the Green Goliath.
Number 10. Moon Girl. Friends, I just read the Moon Girl team up with the X-Men, which continues her journey on the hunt for Devil Dinosaur, who has been dino-napped, and it was way too cute, and I have to include her, so sorry but not sorry. Also, Moon Girl does not get enough love, and Luna Lafayette, she's pretty unstoppable, let's be honest. Not only does she succeed in rescuing Devil Dinosaur in her team-up series, and as such will be returning with her own series with her dino pal in tow, which I recently picked up the first issue of, although I haven't read it yet, but she also has solved problems that have stumped many genius-level individuals in the Marvel Universe. Moon Girl was smart enough to find a way to almost single-handedly destroy the Terrigen Mists, when that threatened basically a war between the Inhumans and the mutants. I mean, granted, there were others who were kind of trying to puzzle it out before her, and succeeding at least somewhat in that, but it was really Moon Girl that made the destruction of the Mists possible in the short time the heroes had left to rectify the conflict between the two sides. And while her instantly fixing Forge's work may have irked a lot of comic book fans, I will say it did show just how brilliant Moon Girl is, because Forge is literally one of the best inventors that we have at Marvel Comics in terms of his intellect and his know-how, so that just goes to show you basically how cool Moon Girl is. I don't really see it as a downside, but I understand. I love Forge too, so it is a little like, oh, my heart.
And at 9, Spider-Man. No matter what Spider-Man or Spider-Person you're referring to, none of them will ever be stopped in the grand scheme of things, alright? Not only is Peter alone an insanely resilient individual, but that's part of the whole Spider-Person identity. Getting back up no matter how many times you get knocked down or no matter how hard you hit the mat. Which is why Spider-Man is Marvel's most popular character, or well, one of the reasons. Which is yet another reason why he's unstoppable. Because why would Marvel end a character that is just making them mad bank? Spider-Man's introduction in essence resurrected the MCU in a time where people thought that Civil War was going to be lame, and now, seemingly, the driving force behind it, since the majority of the OGs have retired or were killed, or sacrificed themselves, or whatever. Spider-Man is a powerhouse in a ton of industries, and that plot armor is going to be more powerful than anything Tony Stark could ever make for him. Cosmic Spider-Man was awesome, and something I want to cosplay, but the plot armor is truly the most powerful version of this character. Plus, the whole thing where he has to actively pull his punches, otherwise, you know, we'll have a whole Andrew Garfield situation. And then when he threatened the Kingpin, because, you know, if things had gone another way, nobody would have been able to stop him. He would have just I would have liked to see that though.
Number 8. Beast. Beast is probably one of the most unstoppable characters at Marvel Comics right now. And while technically still a hero, so relevant to this list in terms of his classification between being a goodie and a baddie in general, he still has been up to some pretty questionable things in order to protect Krakoa, including basically turning Wolverine into a mindless slave. On the more optimistic side of Hank's history though, we also see an example of how unstoppable he can be in terms of his ability to seek out knowledge and never give up. After House of M, Beast for a good while was focused on finding a way to restore mutant kind and bring back the mutants they had lost in the aftermath, thanks to Wanda's reality warping magic. Hank tried everything from science to mysticism, but in the end was sadly unsuccessful. However, he still searched far and wide for a very long time, which I think should get him some unstoppable points. I think he also even created an organization just to like figure that problem out, so Yeah. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us that you love us by giving this video a thumbs up.
And at 7, Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards is the son of Reed and Sue Richards from the Fantastic Four, obviously. I don't feel like I needed to say it, but I still needed to say it. And even while like currently or like in the actual real present year of the comics, he's a toddler, he's still an absolute powerhouse, and I'm gonna count him, okay? Especially since the freaking Celestials have deemed this kid beyond Omega level on like the scale of mutant-based powers. Cause you know, when a future version of yourself comes to your present and then manages to bend Galactus to their will, making Galactus Franklin's herald, I don't think there's much else that they can really do aside from just accept it. Hey, that's like 100%ing life. There's nothing you can do after that, which I think speaks for itself. This kid is able to tear the universe apart with a single thought, in essence, probably making him the scariest damn toddler on the face of the earth and the galaxy, aside from eventually when I have mine, because that will be the spawn of Satan. And that's also coming from someone who already thinks that toddlers are scary. Alright, you should have seen that one who was trying to stab me with safety scissors. That was a time. Gotta love Tuesdays. Also, according to the history of the Marvel Universe, like the book, Franklin Richards is supposed to survive until the end of his universe and then pass on to the next one, like Galactus did, which is insane. Dude was born from a girl who can go invisible and a guy who can stretch. Jeez.
Number 6, Colossus. I mean, it's literally in Colossus's name at one point, hence why he has to make our cut and why he takes one of our top spots. Colossus is known for being the unstoppable Colossus in Marvel's Contest of Champions, but also in the comics during the Fear Itself event when he became the avatar of CHTHONK for a time, replacing Cain Marko. In fact, whenever Colossus is the avatar of CHTHONK, that's what we call him, Unstoppable Colossus, because Juggernaut is Unstoppable Juggernaut. And if you have his card in Marvel Snap, it is easy to see why we consider him to be so unstoppable just in general. Sorry, I'm obsessed with Marvel Snap lately, so it's probably going to be mentioned now and then in our videos. Even though we are not sponsored by Marvel Snap, to be clear, but we should be. I love that game. In Snap, Colossus's card ability is an ongoing. He cannot be moved, destroyed, or have his power reduced. And he comes by this card ability honestly, as even in the comics, Colossus is known for being an unstoppable force.
Halfway through in at number 5, Archie Andrews. Okay, whoa. Hold on. Before you start raging at me in the comments, just please hear me out. I doubt anyone actually listened to that, but you know what? You may think that this is ridiculous and that I'm just trying to be a shit disturber. And while that is one of my favorite pastimes, Archie and the gang have actually been canon in the Marvel Comics since June of 1994. Archie Meets the Punisher is a one-shot comic and intercompany crossover written by Bat and Lash, and it was published jointly by Archie Comics and Marvel Comics and features the Punisher mistaking Archie Andrews for a criminal that he's been hunting. Then, when he realizes that he was wrong, he works with Archie to rescue Veronica after she had been kidnapped. And you know what? Since Archie has been a superhero multiple times in his comics, this instantly makes Archie a canon Marvel superhero. But with the comics being used as a plot device as well in Riverdale Season 6 to explain their multiverse, well, those would also by proxy be canon, meaning that Archie, being another Marvel Superman but with a weakness to palladium instead of to kryptonite, is a thing. Until they got rid of his weakness. Yeah, that was also a thing. Yeah, that's a pretty unstoppable hero if you ask me. Yeah, he can't fly, but I mean, again, plot armor.
Number 4, Storm. On part 1 of this list, I talked about how Magneto was unstoppable after Uranos' invasion. How even after seemingly being killed, Magneto just got back up. Well, he wouldn't actually have been able to keep going if it wasn't for Storm and their weird, kinda sexy team up in their fight against Uranos. But this isn't the only time that Storm has become unstoppable. There are a few others that stick out in my memory. There is the time that she was infected by the Children of the Vault's technology, which threatened to overtake her body like a virus. This happened actually pretty recently, within the last few years. Her brush with the deadly tech left Storm comatose, temporarily, until she was revived by the combined efforts of Jean Grey and Emma Frost in their own giant-size X-Men comic, which they shared together. However, Storm was still very unwell after this and left with an estimated 1 month to live. While Krakoa has the capacity to resurrect any fallen mutants, or anyone else that they feel so inclined to bring back at this point, Storm refused to take this easy way out. She would not just lay down and surrender to death. Why? Because Storm is a badass, that's why. And also I think because she felt it undermined the value of life to do so, which she was not here for, and honestly, I want to back her up on that one. Instead, Storm attempted to fight back against the infection, venturing into the often bigger on the inside lab known as the World in her own giant-size issue in an attempt to find something that might help her. Storm and her teammates did succeed in this, separating the virus from Storm and restoring her health, and proving that even in the face of death, Storm generally refuses to back down.
Getting close to the end in number 3, Squirrel Girl. Okay, I mean, there's a whole series called The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, so I think that you kind of deserve to be on the list. The solo series debuted in January of 2015 and ran for 8 issues, and was relaunched in October of 2015 as part of Marvel's all-new, all-different Marvel branding, and was published through to November of 2019 with 50 issues for a total of 58. Both series were written by Ryan North, but in issue number 4 of volume 1, Squirrel Girl literally stops Galactus from coming after Earth by being friends with him. I mean, come on, you're literally unable to sit there and tell me that this doesn't make her deserving of this list. Bro, she didn't even have to fight him, for God's sakes. That's actually insane, dude. She just talked the Devourer of Worlds into not going after Earth. Plus, I know that you all love Squirrel Girl, okay? I may not have been here for a while, okay, but I know that much. I also know that saying anything against the Hulk will get me mean DMs for 3 years, but hey, at least you love Squirrel Girl. And honestly, after reading this issue, I have to say I agree. It's pretty freaking nuts. Yes, I made the pun, alright? You were all waiting for it, I hope.
Number 2, Punisher. The Punisher truly is a man who never backs down. I mean, we even see this bizarrely enough reflected in his interaction in the comics with Archie Andrews, who was also on this list. Punisher is willing to venture kind of into a totally different world in order to apprehend a criminal, and he succeeds, after of course mistaking Archie for the criminal, but that of course is easy to do when you consider how similar he looks to the man that Punisher was after. Punisher is so committed to catching the evildoer, he resorts to food fight tactics. And for Frank Castle, who often prefers to fight with guns, you better bet that's commitment. That's unstoppable when you're willing to throw a cake at someone.
And finally, in at number 1, Scarlet Witch. Considering how the entirety of House of M is meant to be about how she changed reality, I think it's fairly safe to say that she's a powerful hero, even if she isn't a hero all the time. Like in Multiverse of Madness, for example, when she somehow was able to send demons and monsters across different dimensions to attack America Chavez, but couldn't just go to those dimensions herself. Even if she was a villain in this scenario, she was still able to take on the Illuminati from their universe and beat them all fairly easily, proving that not only is she an extremely powerful mutant, whether she's on either side, but also that falling boulders can kill a Captain Marvel, and are also therefore the most dangerous obstacle or weapon in the Marvel universe. The only limit to Wanda's abilities in any incarnation really is her brain, which is like my one gripe with Multiverse of Madness, since her whole point of taking America's powers for herself was in case her kids got sick and died again. But like, you've turned a whole city into your own personal TV show and brought your dead Infinity Stone powered boyfriend back for it. So I think you can handle a little chicken pox if your sons get caught or get whatever you think they're gonna get in whatever universe, but that's also a way for them to explain why she didn't do it, since the movie was all about setting up the premise of incursions. But either way, come on, Scarlet, yeah, it's the thumbnail, I think. I don't know, I actually don't know.